Well, it would help if I would go on. There we go. The alarm's going to go off. Good evening. Leroy Kleimola here with you, alongside my partner, Greyson Baumann. Glad to be with you here as we get things kicked off for our live show this evening on the WTIM Prairie Farms Dairy Pigskin Playoff Preview Show. That's right. We're excited. Grayson, glad to have you here, bud. How are you?
Yes, sir. Good. A little tired after a long night over there in Gibson City last night, but we're doing all right, Leroy. Glad to be here.
You did have a long night last night. Taylorville's game obviously did not take place. There was a forfeit. So Taylorville improves to 5-4 on the season. We'll go over all of that, but just kind of a preview of how our show will go tonight. See what I did there? Preview and a preview. We're going to kind of go over conference standings here for a little bit. Results are not going to be released until 8. I'll tell you that straight up right now. Results are not going to be released until 8, so you can hang out with us for an hour here and go over, review what we've gone over before. Leave a comment if you're interested in a certain team, you want to hear about a certain team, and we'll go ahead and get that all taken care of.
Yeah.
Well, are you interested in a certain team, Grayson?
Yeah, I've got an interest in Central A&M. That's probably my most devoted interest here.
Well, before we get to that, we're going to get to the Apollo Conference first. We're going to highlight some of the great stuff that took place in the Apollo Conference. But if you are watching on our live stream on YouTube or on Facebook, make sure to leave a comment. Let us know you're here, and we'll take care of all of that. Glad to have you all here with us. Our sponsor for this evening's show, Prairie Farms. So let's get things kicked off here first. As I said, the Apollo Conference, Muhammad Seymour. Bulldogs absolutely cleaning up. They won last year. They're going to win again. They won the conference again this year, finishing 5-0 in the conference, going 7-2 overall, and they looked good this year, Grayson.
I was going to say, Leroy, looking at their points for and points against, that's a big margin of difference there. 399 points for, only allowed 143. That looks like a high-powered offense with a pretty good defense on the other side. I'd be on the lookout for them. Maybe a second-round team at the minimum.
The closest game that they had was a loss to Highland 42-41, and they lost to Sycamore 21-13. But Apollo Conference, not a problem for Muhammad. 56-3, 28-6, 38-14, 49-0, 63-7 before winning against Peoria on the road in Richwoods, 42-13. So Muhammad, the real deal. They have struggled, Grayson. They've struggled historically in the playoffs, and they play in 5A, a little bit tougher competition, for them, but they struggled in the playoffs.
Well, and I was kind of surprised by that 5A ranking, really, for them. Not the biggest town in terms of population. I thought they were around the 10,000 mark. Maybe they're a little more than that, but Muhammad has played up to the playoffs and then apparently not been able to get it done there. But this year looks like they should be able to do it. My concern would be, how good was the Apollo Conference and how good of a test was it really for them? Maybe that's where those non-con games will come in. They'll really be able to be a little more battle tested. They just absolutely took care of the Apollo Conference with ease. You mentioned all those scores, 49-0, one of those. Yeah, that's not a whole lot of resistance on the other side. So Muhammad Seymour just coasted through the Apollo Conference, but went 2-2 outside of it. So I'll be interested to see how they do when it's been some time since they played an out-of-conference foe.
Finishing in second place was Mount Zion. Mount Zion finishing 3-2, 6-3. Those 6 wins assuring Mount Zion a playoff spot. They did pick up some tough wins in the Apollo Conference, including a big 14-12 win over Taylorville in a game that really was a whole lot closer. Well, I mean, the score was close, obviously, but the game was super, super close. They did suffer losses to Columbia. Oh, that's the wrong one. Hold on.
What can you tell me about that game, that 14-12, though?
It all came down to special teams. And it's one of those games that I think moving on that Taylorville will look back at and go, we were that close. That should have been us. Yeah. Mount Zion did suffer losses to Troy Triad and Muhammad, obviously. But they finished, they will qualify for a playoff spot. Their fate awaits later on this evening. Then we come to Taylorville. Taylorville finishing in third, and Taylorville rattling off 4 straight wins in a row, including a 42-41 win over Effingham, and probably one of the greatest football games that I've ever seen. A fantastic game that seemed to go both ways, but really, when you go back now and you watch that game, it really felt that Taylorville was in control for a good majority of that game. It'll be interesting to talk to Coach Jeb Odom a little bit later on and see what he says about this game and whether or not, what he feels if that was a turning point for this season.
I mean, you'd have to think, considering you rattle off those 4 wins and obviously very necessary, you look dead to rights with where they were at. And then all of a sudden you're able to get those wins, get back into the hunt, and then you get that freebie. Last night not playing, getting that free win, and that's really what turned it all around. Imagine if they just turned over and just took what they were looking like they were going to have to take, which was a pretty tough record. They end up turning it around, and maybe that was that turning point, that focal point for the season.
Taylorville awaits their fate. They will find out tonight around 8:20. 8:20 tonight is when the Apollo Conference 4A will find out the results of their playoffs. Effingham, tough year for Effingham. 2-3, 4-5. Mattoon 2-3, 2-7, and Charleston 0-5, 3-6. So rounding out the Apollo Conference, Charleston, huge fall off. They dealt with injuries a good majority of the season, but a rough fall off for a team that made the playoffs last year.
I was going to say, 8-3 last year. I believe they won their first playoff game, and I believe then lost in their second game. But to end the year, I'd say it went real bad. From September 20th on, they did not win. It was loss after loss, 6 straight of them, and that thing got ugly quick, really. 3 wins to start the season, 6 straight losses after that, and really not a whole lot of ball games that you really look at and feel like you were in that game even. So for Charleston, 3-6 record after going 8-3 last year. That's not the best look, but maybe they'll have something to hang their hat on and move forward from.
We're live on WTIM, your information station, with the Prairie Farms Dairy Pigskin Playoff Preview Show, and excited to be bringing you all of this stuff. We're going to move and shift now. That's a look at the Apollo Conference. We're going to look at the other conferences here as well, including the Heart of Illinois Conference. Now, Heart of Illinois broken up into 2 specific categories. We have the
you've got the small and you've got the large. So the Heart of Central Illinois small. Central A&M is right in that pack. And then for those of you out there, Shelbyville in the large pack as well in that. So Leroy, if we're moving the page and headed over to the small conference, I can tell you this much. Yeah. Leroy, they took care of business. They went 9-0, 8-0 within the conference. And Gibson City right behind them.
You guys played them yesterday. How good are they? How good is that? You played both Leroy and Gibson. How good are those teams?
Leroy, it's been a while. My memory might need a refresh there. They were the first game of the season. I believe that was a 35-14 ball game for Central A&M. Let me just lay this on you with Leroy. 405 points for Leroy. How many do you think they allowed?
120.
Cut that in half and you're there. 62. 405 points for, 405 points for. That's an unbelievable mark. Leroy is really good. Gibson City, here's the thing. We didn't even get their best look last night. Their skill players, some of them banged up, would have played from what I heard. And if it were a playoff game, but last night Gibson City still coasted to a big win. They went up in that first half 42-0. They have a high-powered offense. They can get it done on the ground. They can get it done through the air. That top of the conference looks really, really good. And then don't be sleeping on Warrensburg Latham at 7-2. That's a good team there as well. So this is a really strong conference, really from the top down until you get to some of those weaker individuals at the bottom. Tuscola
and Central A&M both getting at-large bids for the playoffs. Tuscola sitting at 5-3 in the conference, 5-4 overall. Central A&M 4-4 in the conference, and 5-4 overall. You've called all of the Central A&M games this year. Talk a little bit about the strengths and maybe some of the weaknesses of the Central A&M team.
I think Coach Weekly has wanted to kind of move away from youth as the conversation for the team. I've tried my best during the calls to really not talk about it a whole lot. I think I've done an all right job of that because I understand why. You only have 4 seniors, and so you don't have a whole lot to kind of look towards in terms of your experience. And so where do you find that? And right now, this season, it's been with those underclassmen, a whole lot of freshmen getting starting minutes, and they're doing a lot on both sides of the ball. And so Central A&M, what I would say this year, to go 5-4, to get back in the playoffs and understanding that this is a team full of young talent, especially at skill positions. I like the outlook over the next couple of years. And this year is not a bad year. Obviously, you're headed to the playoffs. So I say that we're looking forward to next year, really, with these younger individuals and these skill players that Coach Weekly possesses. But Central A&M still got a job to do once we find that out at about 8 o'clock.
Wrapping out the rest of the small Heart of Central Illinois Conference, Hayworth, Macon, Fisher, and Minonk rounding out the rest of the Heart of Central Illinois Small Conference. We have to take a break. When we come back, we will talk about the Heart of Central Illinois Large. Let's take a look at some of the other teams in our area, including Pana. An amazing season from both Pana, an amazing season from Sullivan, and we'll talk a little bit about Nokomis and as well. You're listening to WTIM, your information station, and the WTIM Prairie Farms Dairy Pigskin Playoff Preview Show. Woo!
That feeling is in the air. It's getting cooler. The leaves are falling. It's fall, and that means bonfires, get-togethers, and farmer-owned Prairie Farms dairy products. Prairie Farms cottage cheese is a great salad or side dish. Dip your favorite vegetable into Prairie Farms' lineup of dips, including French onion and ranch, to make the taste pop. And Prairie Farms sour cream goes great on that baked potato you just took off the grill. Enjoy the fall season with these Prairie Farms dairy products in your grocery or convenience store dairy case.
This is Will Perkins with Taylorville Community Credit Union. Are you looking for a great CD rate? If you are, TCCU has a CD special that is just what you are looking for. We are currently offering a 7-month share certificate with an annual percentage yield of 4.51% and a minimum deposit of $1,000. The great rate is for a limited time. For more information, please contact us at any of our convenient locations in Taylorville, Pana, Hillsboro, Litchfield, or online at tccu.org. Dividends will be compounded monthly. A penalty for early withdrawal may be imposed. Fees could reduce earnings on the account. Member NCUA.
Dr. Pavi Gill from Springfield Clinic, Taylorville, is here to talk about staying protected during flu season.
Flu season is upon us, and now is the perfect time to get your flu shot. It's quick, safe, and effective at keeping you protected throughout the winter months. By getting vaccinated, you're not only safeguarding yourself, but also helping to stop the spread of the flu in our community. Stay healthy this season. Get your flu shot today.
Protect yourself and those around you this flu season. Schedule your flu shot at Springfield Clinic, Taylorville by calling 217-287-8855 or walk in today.
Where do ghosts sleep? In the boodroom, of course. And they sleep great on their all-new Bemco Arctic Breeze and Max Life mattresses from the guys at Just Beds. This month, twin Bemco mattresses $149, queen mattresses just $229. Spooky good deals and a great night's sleep from the all-new Bemco Arctic Breeze and Max Life mattresses. As always, free delivery to your boodroom, setup and removal. Visit the Yawn Exterminators at Just Beds on Montvale Drive, Springfield.
Just Beds.
Small towns are in, and Taylorville is poised for you and your family to join them. Taylorville has what you're looking for. Find out more, including upcoming events, by clicking the Small Town Taylorville icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
With over 8 hours a day of agriculture programming weekdays and 2 hours on Saturdays, WTIM AM, FM, and online is your ag information station. Listen by tuning in on air or online, and listen to WTIM Ag podcasts anytime.
This is Staff Meteorologist Paul Trombley with your regional radio forecast. Lows level off around 37 tonight under partly cloudy skies. Winds out of the northeast, 5 to 10 miles per hour. Ample sunshine expected tomorrow. High temperatures reach up to 64. Clear skies tomorrow night. Lows dip down to about 40. Get weather anytime by calling 824-6101 or online at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com. Currently 53.
I'm pretty sure that there's music that I'm supposed to play for the intro, but I don't remember what the music is. Let me look and see.
Get to digging.
Regardless, we got to get back to it, so we're just going to go ahead and jump right back into it. But we want to welcome you back to the WTIM Prairie Farms Dairy Pigskin Playoff Preview Show. Glad to have you here with us as we get things kicked off here this evening. And we are talking now about the Heart of Central Illinois Large. We will have the results a little bit later. If you're watching on our live stream, thank you so much for joining us. Very awesome to have you guys with us here this evening. Drop a comment. Let us know what teams you're excited for. Let us know who you're rooting for. And we're hoping to get those results here in about, a little under an hour. But we're going to shift gears We talked about the Heart of Central Illinois small. We're going to talk about the Heart of Central Illinois large now. And only one team that we're really concerned about. But I tell you what, Downs Tri-Valley finishing 8-1, 7-0. But they had some competition. Eureka also finishing 8-1, 6-1 in the conference. El Paso finishing 5-2, 6-3. And Shelbyville coming in at 4-3 and 6-3 overall, Grayson.
Well, they were able to score a lot of points, second most points scored in the conference. And so I do like that look. But as you mentioned, pretty top heavy again, kind of similar to that Heart of Central Illinois small conference where the top is strong. The middle is right there. But, you know, a couple games that didn't break maybe their way. And then that bottom half kind of a little weaker. But for the large conference, yeah, a whole lot of playoff worthy teams. And right there with them, Deer Creek at 5-4. So depends on where they land, but they're right on the bubble as well. So this could be a 5-school team or a 5-school conference in which they get playoff teams.
Yeah, Mackinac getting the at-large, Shelbyville, El Paso, and Eureka all getting in. And, of course, Tri-Valley winning the conference. So that's how the Heart of Central Illinois large is. Checking out some of the other schools in our area, we're going to talk a little bit about Pana. Now, Pana, I want to give a big shout-out to Coach Trevor Higgins. Coach Higgins, the winningest coach in Pana football history. They honored him last night. Had a bunch of alumni, a bunch of his former players that stopped by. A huge, huge deal for Pana. And listen, conference champions in the South Central. They had a great year this season, finishing 8-1 in conference, 8-1 overall. They outscored their opponents 345 to 127. And I'm telling you, Pana played great. 21-14, a win over Vandalia, win over Carlinville, win over 55-6 over Piazza, 51-24 over Verdon. They lost to Greenville, 21-7, but then rattled off 4 more wins with wins over Hillsborough, Gillespie, Litchfield, and Staunton. That win against Staunton, a 42-0 drubbing for senior night. And as a senior, when you can win 42-0, you got to be feeling pretty good about yourself, don't you think?
You would have to think. That also helps that points for, points against look that you were talking about there as well. But, you know, honestly, to get it done at the end of the season, too, you're just riding that momentum. 4 straight wins. You've scored 40-plus in all those games.
Yeah.
And your defense is looking really good on the opposite side.
Yeah,
Having only allowed 21 at its max. I mean, hey, if you're Shelbyville, you're pretty happy with where you stand right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And so Pana picking up a big conference win. They will wait to see where they stack up in their conference or in their class, as Pana is in 2A.
Pana, yes.
Pana, not Shelbyville. Pana, 2A.
Hey, we're talking about a lot of teams here. Come on,
we are hitting all of them tonight. It is fantastic. All right, we talked about Pana. The other school that was an absolute tough road to play in was Sullivan. Sullivan absolutely cleaning up. Sullivan Okaw Valley Co-op 9-0, finishing in 5th overall in the class. They picked up huge wins, and we talk about points for and points against. 333 to 81. 333 to 81, and multiple shutouts for the Sullivan team. 44-0, 51 win back-to-back against Argenta and Cerro Gordo. They picked up all kinds of wins. Coach John Bertetto really doing some damage. They finished 9-2 last year.
Yeah, they were fantastic.
And they added to it this year with some big wins, including a 19-7 win over second place against Arthur Lovington, who is 8-1.
Yeah, the Knights, I believe, Arthur Lovington Atwood Hammond. Yeah, I called some games for Sullivan last year, and I can tell you this much. That team, now that they are seniors, they've got playoff experience under their belt. They're going to be really difficult to deal with. Cooper Christensen, that kid can ball. Seth Forline's a really good receiver for them as well. They've got weapons. They're seniors. They're loaded with seniors. So you might see a bit of a dip following this year because they have ridden a really nice high with that starting quarterback in Cooper Christensen. He just operates. He knows what he's doing. He knows that offense. And I'm impressed with them from afar at 9-0 again this season. How can you not be? But Sullivan's a good-looking team.
Sullivan finishes in first. They went pick up a conference championship with that 9-0 record, but that was not decided until the very last game against Arthur. Arthur finished in second in the conference, 8-1. Toledo, Niantic, and all picking up playoff berths as well. And coming in with an at-large bid, the other school that we want to talk about here this evening, Nokomis. Nokomis finishing 5-4. 5-4 overall and 5-4 in the conference. They outscored their opponents 286 to 146. Opponents wins 40. Nokomis coming into this season, they finished last year 5-5, finished this year 5-4 with some big wins on the season. They lost to Sullivan 33-20, but for the most part, they're on kind of a little bit of a skid right now. They won their first 5 straight and then suffered 4 losses. So they're going to be looking for some redemption in that first round of the playoffs, whoever they get. Losses to, but tough schedule. Look at that. They had to face Arthur and Sullivan back-to-back at home. So tough games. So we have to follow each other. Then losses to Toledo and Niantic. So Nokomis Redskins looking to right the ship here after a tough break on the last part of that season.
I was going to say, and that's a tough thing to do after losing 4 games in a row, especially to end your season. You haven't seen a win since September, and so now you're thinking, okay, well, if it's the playoffs. We get one chance at this thing, and it's been a while since you had one of those. You're going to have to get it in a real big moment. 4 straight losses. You just have to, like you said, right that ship, come into the playoffs, and just think it's a whole new season, and that's where you're going to have to lie with this one after that 4-game skid that you mentioned.
Yeah, lots of great stuff there. And hoping to see some turnaround for some of these area teams. Did we grab all of them?
I believe we're only missing one team that we were hoping to talk about a little bit. That was South Fork Morrison.
That's right. Yes, South Fork. I apologize, guys.
They sat at 5-4 on the season, Leroy. Won their first 2 games, took a loss to Pawnee, and then they won a game against Hudsonville Palestine to right that ship there. Lost 38-0, then took 2 more wins and ended the season on 2 losses. Add that all up, they sit at 5-4, just quickly going through that there. They took 2 losses to end the season, though. They're going to need it in a big way then to start the playoffs. But at 5-4, good team. They scored 250 on the season, allowed 173, and looked pretty good in that conference there. So South Fork, Morrisonville, they're happy to be in the playoffs as well. It's pretty interesting to see how many teams in the area are getting into the playoffs, especially some of these teams at that 5-4 record, being able to get that at-large berth. And so we'll be finding out more where they sit, but a lot of these teams that we're talking about tonight are going to be those 15s and 16s.
Yep.
And maybe even further down than that. So
we let you know how the rest of this evening is going to break down. We're going to spend the next little part of this making some phone calls. We're going to get some coaches on the air, talk to them about their season and what their highlights were for their games this season, what they're looking forward to in the playoffs. And then we'll have the actual pairings for you. 802 Class 1A, 807 2A, 814 3A, and 819 4A. And then 827 5A. Again, 5A, we're not really concerned. There are too many teams in the area in 5A. Our big focus is obviously going to be 2A and 4A, but we are going to talk about 1A and 3A as well, as we'll have plenty of time to do that coming up. So we're going to take another break. When we come back, we're going to get some coaches on the line and see if we can't get find out some stuff that's going on. Yeah. WTIM Prairie Farms Dairy Pigskin Playoff Preview Show. We'll be back in just a little bit.
They're back. School is back in session. When the kids come home, give them the protein-packed flavors of Prairie Farms Grab-and-Go Milks. They all provide the protein and nutrition your body needs. Grab-and-Go Milks. Just another way you can help your kids' nutrition and health. From the farm families of Prairie Farms Dairy to your family. Grab them in your grocery or convenience store dairy case.
The NFL is on. Westwood 1.
Handoff, Peterson breaking to the clear. Far side, Peterson, 40, 35. Peterson, good night.
Tune in all season long for the NFL's biggest games and most exciting players. If it's the NFL, it's right here.
WTIM on its many on-air platforms. The Big 870 across central Illinois, 96.1 FM in Christian County, 107.5 FM in Shelbyville, and 107.9 FM in the Pana-Nokomis area brings you NFL Sunday afternoon doubleheaders, Monday night and Thursday night football, along with the divisional championships and the Super Bowl. All brought to you by
CNB Bank and Trust, Curvy Real Estate, Landmark of Taylorville, Nicole Patrick, your country financial agent, Taylorville Memorial Hospital, and Nikes Floor Coverings.
WTIM on its many platforms, AM, FM, and online, brings you Taylorville Tornado football and boys basketball all season long and playoff games of all teams. Tornado sports on WTIM and stream live on TaylorvilleDailyNews.com are brought to you by
First National Bank, Advanced Eye Care, and McDonald's,
all in Taylorville.
The purple and gold are coming your way. The Taylorville Tornadoes are going to do it today.
Sign up for People's Bank and Trust Save by Spending Roundup program, and they'll round up your purchases to the next dollar. Then transfer that change to your savings account. It's as easy as shop, enjoy, and save. Get details by clicking their icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
Hi, this is Jeff Robinson from Advanced Title. Whether selling your home on your own or through your local realtor, please give us a call at 824-8007 for all your title work needs.
This is staff meteorologist Paul Trombley with your regional radio forecast. Lows level off around 37 tonight under partly cloudy skies. Winds out of the northeast, 5 to 10 miles per hour. Ample sunshine expected tomorrow. High temperatures reach up to 64. Clear skies tomorrow night. Lows dip down to about 40. Get weather anytime by calling 824-6101 or online at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com. Currently 50.
And welcome back to the WTIM Prairie Farms, Prairie Farms, Dairy Farms. Oh, I forget it. I messed it all up, Grayson. The Prairie Farms Dairy Pigskin Playoff Preview Show. There we go. Joining us on the phone is Coach Duckett. And Coach, that wasn't a really good intro. I apologize. But Coach Duckett from Shelbyville joining us. How are you doing, Coach?
Great. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And you guys finishing 6-3 on the season, pick up another chance to go to the playoffs. Take a look at this season. How do you feel you guys did this year?
Yeah, we played really well. We had a lot of new guys this year. We graduated a bunch of seniors from last year, so kind of a whole new offensive line, new quarterback. So it took a little bit of time to get those guys back into rhythm, but glad to see them kind of pick it up. And they got a lot of experience last year going deep in the playoffs, got some playing time, but just new starters across the board. So definitely good to see them kind of continue that tradition that we've got.
What would you say, looking back at this season, what would you say was one of the more highlight wins for you guys?
I'd say the Deer Creek win. Going on the road, we're playing teams that we hadn't played before from that HOIC up by Bloomington. And, a lot of long road trips, and that's a very good conference up there. And we go on the road against DMAC, and that was the game where there was a lot of wind and didn't really play in our favor weather-wise, but we came out of there with a big win and kind of ran the ball really well, and just our best game overall for sure.
How do you get your guys motivated on those long car rides, on those long trips to get them ready to go for a big game like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Our closest game this year was still over an hour away. And so we kind of had to get used to it. We had 5 road trips that were an hour plus, and 3 of those were 2 hours away. And so it's definitely a difficult task. You just try to get there a little bit early, get your legs loosened up, get moving around. And it ended up paying off. We won every road game this year, so kind of the road warriors.
Talk a little bit about your seniors this year. What have they meant to you and to the program?
Yeah, it's a great group, a good group of leaders. Like I mentioned, we graduated a lot of guys last year, and these guys stepped right into those roles. We had 3 or 4 of them got some experience last year. Our receivers, defensive backs from last year all returned, and those guys have been in great leadership roles. Jack Yokish, Chase Wells, Joel Wiley, Seth Tope, all 4 of them are kind of two-way starters that we did have returning, and they kind of led the way for us. We're kind of rely on them in the passing game. We pass a little more than we run. And so they've given us a little bit of that experience to lean on in the tough games.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's always nice to have, we talk about that next man up mentality, and boys, they must have done a really good job of filling in those roles. I know you guys had a really good team last year, and to be able to fill those roles, that's got to be a tough, some big shoes to fill.
Oh, yeah. Losing Brody Bain at quarterback, who's an all-stater 2 years in a row, and, a first-team all-conference guy 2 years in a row. He's just a great leader as well, but a tremendous athlete on the field. Anytime you lose a guy of his caliber, it is big shoes to fill. And we had Chase Wells come in and quarterback there, and he's done a great job leading us offensively and really defensively. He's our leading tackler as well. So he kind of gets it down on both sides of the ball, just like Brody did. And so he's filled in there in a big, big way.
What goals do you have? Obviously, you want to win the whole thing, but what goals do you guys have for your guys for the playoffs?
Yeah, this group, they going into this new conference, we knew it was going to be tough. So, starting the year, you want to make the playoffs, and once you get in, anything can happen. You get a good draw. It goes into matchups. If you get the right matchups for you and things play out right, you can make a run. And so, the big goal is to go in each game and still take it one at a time. It's a one-game season from here on, and these guys just have to stay focused and do the little things right. It's still all about blocking, tackling, and not turn the ball over. And if we can do those things, we'll put ourselves in a position to be successful.
All right, Coach Duckett, thanks so much for taking a few minutes to talk to us today. Good luck, and we'll see you. We'll talk to you next time, but good luck in the playoffs.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right. Coach Duckett joining us here, and Grayson, I know we're having a few technical issues there, but Shelbyville talking about, a new conference, and that's something that Central A&M also had to deal with, was being in a new conference and long road trips and having to be a coach and having to motivate. Broadcasters need that motivation too, because we got to go a long way as well.
It was a testament last night to what a color can do for you in terms of just helping you on a broadcast. So I'm definitely right there with you. You take a 2-hour trek. You don't talk a whole lot. Now, if you're me, you don't talk a whole lot. If you're a team, maybe you're doing a whole lot more. But either way, it's hard. You got to shake the rust off. You got to stretch the legs. I mean, tell me, after a 2-hour drive, you're a little you got to just you got to unwind a little bit, and so that can be difficult on those long journeys.
All right. Well, we're going to try to were you able to hear the last part of that?
I was, and I was actually hoping maybe I could ask him about that. It's a tough loss, 27-0 last night, but I was wondering maybe how he felt, and we'll ask Coach Weekly this, to play a playoff caliber team in the last game of your season. Yes, it doesn't go your way, but do you see that as a benefit heading into the playoffs to play a team of that type of caliber? And so we'll just see what Coach Weekly has to say about it, but I bet Coach Duckett would have had good things to say too.
All right, well, let's pull him up right here. You got that number?
Coach Weekly, 217.
I don't know if we want to get that.
We don't. So
yeah, that's it. That's all I'm going to give it to me. 246-6814.
I don't know.
Right, there we go.
I don't know what this guy's trying to do. Dogs people.
No, I was like hoping you just hand me
Oh,
the sheet.
well, see, that'd be smarter, but that's not what I did, is it?
Hello?
Coach Weekly?
Yes, sir.
Hey, it's Leroy Kleimola and Greyson Baumann over at WTIM Studios. Hey, we're hoping to talk to you a little bit about your season and about a big night tonight with playoffs.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, Grayson, go ahead. You can ask the questions.
Sure thing. Coach Weekly, what are you seeing right now in terms of the playoff picture? Is it a little more clear right now for you, or are you still just as muddied up as all of us?
Say that one more time. I'm sorry. I got to get outside my dog.
Oh, you're okay. You're okay. I'm wondering, do you have a little more clear picture on the playoffs at this point now in the night? And if not, are you just as in the mud as we are right now trying to figure all these things out?
No, I think we're going to Calhoun. I think that's where we're going. I don't know when to play, but I'm pretty sure it'll be a Saturday. That's a pretty good trip for us. I think on a Friday. So we're playing. That's my projection. Heard it from a media person, sent me a text message earlier tonight. So they got that infamous email that no one says that they don't ever get, but they let me know. So just kind of makes it a little easier. But we kind of Rob Smith, defense coordinator, basketball coach, went through it. We went through everything all week, and he laid it out there. Then when Althoff won today, beating that 618, 5A 618 from Maple Park. Pretty much guaranteed us playing Calhoun.
And that's a good squad down there. My question to you, Coach, 2 hours and 15 minutes, I believe, is somewhere in the ballpark of that drive from our neck of the woods over to Hardin. And we just dealt with that on that 2-hour drive to Gibson City, but it's a playoff game. Do we operate any differently with it being a Saturday in terms of getting out there? Do we maybe get there a little earlier just so we can get those legs stretched? How do you see that shaking up with the long trip ahead of you?
Usually depends on the game time. Anything longer than 2 hours, I like to have a stop or a break somewhere in between, halfway somewhere. Get out, stretch your legs, go to the bathroom, kind of let the kids know, hey, it's time to start locking in. Always like to get there 2 hours before game time as well. So we'll have breakfast here and go through a walkthrough and get on the bus and go from there. But until I find out exactly what time the game is, I won't put anything out there specifically. But, we'll have breakfast, and then, like I said, we'll be able to walk through and go through all the stuff we need to go through Saturday morning and hop on the bus and go.
Coach Weekly, getting that extra day on Friday, can you give us an idea of what a week of practice looks like during the playoffs for you?
Oh, I love it. I get an extra day of work. It's fun for me, kids, and I shorten the practice time. So really, we get about an hour more extra of work as far as practicing, but we cut practice time down. We're normally out by no later than 5:15 on Tuesday through Thursday. That would be the latest we would ever go. We'll put the final stamp on GCMS, and what we're going to see gives kids is kind of a vanilla, what they're going to see on Monday. Tuesday will be all the base stuff that we'll see from them. Our base defense will work against their top 6 to 8 plays. Offensively, we'll start repping the script that we're going to have going into it. We might sprinkle that in on Monday just to get them out and get the legs started working, throwing us out a little bit. And then Wednesday, you kind of just keep going. And then if there's anything you think you need to add or something that you used earlier in the year but haven't rep this week, you put that in on Thursday and you rep that on Friday. And by the time Friday's practice is over, Coach Joseph from Aroa heard him say many times, hey, the hay's in the barn. There ain't much you can do after that. And just go out and you play it and see which 14 to 18-year-old young men can figure it out and do it the best in 48 minutes.
Well, Coach, thank you for breaking that down for us and our listeners here. My next question for you, you've got a good idea that we're heading to Hardin for that playoff game, and maybe some insider information, even by the sounds of it, an early break maybe. But we are wanting to know, if that's your assumption, what do you know about Hardin and what your team is going to be going up against next weekend?
I talked to Coach Flowers from Carrollton this morning. We had a relationship. We played him in 21. And I just said, hey, break down the conference for me, because it's between Calhoun and Camp Point. And I said, Calhoun. He goes, yeah, we beat them, but it was a hurricane game, and they fumbled 6 times in the first half. And he goes, I'm telling you, it's a grown man conference over here this year. We're just trying to survive, get through healthy. They hadn't played their 9th game. I called them. I forgot they played this afternoon. I felt awful when I called him, but he was nice to the guy enough to talk to me. And, they're a really physical team. Really, we got a big running back, but theirs is a little bit bigger. He's big. He's a big kid, really athletic, about 6'1", about 240 pounds, and they're going to hand the ball. And we got to get as many hats as we can on a guy like that, trying to tackle him. They've got a lot of other backs who do a good job of complimenting him. They've thrown it 32 times for the entire year. I think week 7, we threw it 35. So definitely a contrast in play. I think they I think they're comfortable with how they play. I think we're comfortable with how we play. And, it really comes down to execution and physicality. And, that's what GCMS was good for, to kind of get us to see what a really good playoff team is going to look like. Hopefully we're prepared for it now and back and understanding how we have to play and perform better for this upcoming game.
Absolutely. It's funny you mentioned that game last night. I was wondering how you felt about that. Just kind of talking to Leroy here. At least you play a playoff caliber team going into the playoffs, and maybe you don't get the result that you were looking for, but you still played an excellent caliber team. And I do think that has some sort of benefit going into the playoffs. And so I was glad to hear you make mention of that. Coach Weekly, for you, is there anything additionally that this team maybe is going to be looking for in terms of reaching into the bag? Are we going to be trying to pull out all the stops in terms of offensive plays, maybe switch anything up? Or are we going to say, hey, we got to this point with our game plan, that's what we're sticking to?
I think you always have one or two wrinkles in the bag that you can pull something out of. We've used a lot of it, though, this year. But I think, using another one of Coach Joseph's quotes is shoot or shoot. You give them the best shot with whatever you got. And you kind of have to play the game by ear. And, you can't there comes to a point in time where, I felt like maybe last night I punted when I shouldn't have. But I couldn't tell you what the result was going to be any different. But decided to punt there. I think 21-0, and I think it was the fourth and 5, and I felt like we should have went for it, but I talked myself out of it. It's one of those things where in your brain you're like, well, you don't want to give them a short field, but again, we didn't, and they scored anyway, so it didn't matter. So I think you have to be ultra aggressive when you're considered the underdog. I think your kids have to buy in, and we have to have early success. A game like this, you have to have early success in, and it's usually one of those things. I like to defer, but when you play a wing T team and maybe you win the toss and take the ball and go through the score and they're chasing, I don't know that they're going to get too uncomfortable. Like I said, they're going to do it 32 times, so they're probably not going to blink about it. But I think makes them think, well, if you can score early or score often, then maybe their kids may start to press, and maybe the ball ends up on the ground for them and we recover it. When you get on teams that are run dominant, you get up 14, or I always think the magic number is 21 on teams like that. They do start to panic because they don't feel like they can catch up. So that's I guess that would be there's any magical way we can get up 21-0 then, or something like that, then I guess you say we pulled something extra out of the hat. But
sure.
like I said, you got to be physical. Hopefully you cause a turnover or two and score early and often and make them start chasing.
And if it was just as easy as waving that magical wand and getting those 21 points, then we probably wouldn't be having this conversation like we are. But Coach, my last question for you, and I've tried to stray away from the topic as much as possible, but your team is young. How I am trying to spin this is, well, you're getting that playoff experience at that young age. It's just getting you that much more ready. Some might say inexperience might be the opposite side of that. How are you feeling going into this one with just 4 seniors on your roster? Just as confident as you would any week?
I mean, I for the kids, it's an extra bit of excitement. I think coaches, there's a little bit more juice in practice, so you get a little more excited because usually it gets a little chillier at this time, but I guess we're going to have a heat wave in the middle of the week. But, I think for our kids, I always kind of set the number after week 6. If you've played quite a bit of varsity, whatever class that you're in, I officially so for freshmen who've played a lot, to me, they're sophomores, and sophomores are juniors, and juniors are now seniors. And I expect that type of urgency from everybody, if that makes sense, from these guys. And, Rochester has all that success. And if you really break it down and you think about it, all those years when they win a state title, those guys get 5 more extra weeks of practice, doing what they're doing, with the fundamental work and all that. So by the time if they were a junior, that was part of that 3-peat or 4-peat that they had, you got an extra year of football just to practice. And how much bigger of an advantage do you get by that much extra practice? I think you get quite a bit. So I think any more time you give to kids is always a good thing, and an opportunity for us to hopefully make it more than 1 week.
Well, I think so too, Coach, and I think that's the way that to be looking at this going into this thing. The freshmen and the underclassmen are a big part of the reason, just as big a part of the reason as to why we are here in this spot. And so, Coach Weekly, I don't want to take up any more of your time. Look at that playoff pairing show just like we do, just to make sure. But thank you very much for your time. And, Coach, I look forward, whatever the time, whatever the place may be, to calling your game next Saturday.
I appreciate it. Sounds good. We'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Thank you, Coach Weekly.
Thanks, Coach. Good luck in the playoffs.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Coach Weekly, talk to us about some of the great stuff that he's got going on there with Central A&M. And again, they run into the same issues, Grayson, that Shelbyville did. New conference, new teams for the most part that they're playing, and a new understanding of, just that kind of, okay, we've got farther to travel. We've got new faces, new teams to play. And it's never easy when, you look at colleges who have to play maybe, a new team that they haven't seen in a while. So you're going over tape from others and things like that. But Central A&M doing what they need to do to slip into the playoffs, and that's all you can ask for from your team.
And especially, I know we won't mention it again, but just as that young group and as that young core, I just like what the outlook is, not just for this playoff picture, what it looks like for in the next couple of years. I think Coach Weekly's got a good squad. I think he is a very accountable coach. It doesn't matter what game it's been, he's been up in that booth with us. And so I respect the heck out of that guy too. So I think this team's got a good chance wherever they've got to go. They've got to go somewhere, though, and we'll be finding that out here in about 10 minutes or so here with you live, and I'm excited to do so. Whether that's Hardin, whether that's Belleville, whatever the case, we'll be there next Saturday.
All right, I got a message that we're going to be talking to Coach Jeb Odom here in a little. He asked for a little bit more time, so we're going to wait. We're going to take a little break. When we come back, we will talk to Coach Odom and see what he's got going on here. Probably at the top of the hour, we'll go ahead and talk to him and see what we got going on here. But he had asked for just a few more minutes. He had something that was going on. We'll get that all taken care of here in just. Again, Class 1A, 802, Class 2A, 807, Class 3A, 814, Class 4A, 819, and Class 5A, 827. We've got a lot of stuff coming your way. A big shout out to Coach Duckett from Shelbyville and Coach Weekly for taking a few minutes to talk to us today. Always greatly appreciative. These coaches work really, really hard. So for them to give us 5-10 minutes of their time is always appreciated. When we come back, we will talk to Coach Jeb Odom a little bit about some of the great stuff that he had in the turnaround that this team had, going from 1-4 to wrapping up 4 straight wins in a row and securing themselves a spot, most likely in the playoffs. So we'll talk to Coach Odom here in just a few moments, right here on the WTIM Prairie Farms Pigskin Playoff Preview Show. I'm getting better with that, Grayson. We're going to get there. We're going to get there really, really soon. But you're listening to WTIM, your information station, back in just a little bit. Right here. Actually, I'm going to hold for just a moment as we try to get this all lined up with where I need to get this lined up. There we go.
WTIM.
This is Greyson Baumann reporting. The annual Downtown Shelbyville Candy Run is coming soon, and 50 businesses have entered this year and set up their tables and treats for the area kids to visit. The Candy Run is held Wednesday, October 30th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Those trick-or-treating will be able to start their adventure from any angle of the downtown space, says Jennifer Snow of Corner Copy Print Shop.
I feel like depending on where you park, depends on where you start. You can start anywhere, really. Some people start down here at Select Interiors and work their way up to the main street. Some people start over by Leach Wilson and work their way around. There's even people that start on the other side and I'd say about, where First Federal is now, or the new Hidden Cove, the old Joe's Pizza. So yeah, there's plenty of starting points to get to. So on the south side, we go from First Federal all the way down to Reber Welding. Reber is a little bit past Lisa's, and they usually have it set up, and it's really neat. I feel bad because I think people forget to go down there. But they don't forget Reber Welding. They do a great job setting up. It's really neat. And then on the other side, we have, I think the last one is Rinker Law, all the way down to Leach Wilson. Okay. And then we even go down Morgan and Broadway on the north side. So we have all the way to Select Interior, and then we have all the way to the library. And the library sets up, so don't forget the library either. They don't get as much traffic either.
Sure.
Snow says it's important to remember that many businesses not in the downtown space will have their setup on the night of the Candy Run.
And I mean, thankfully, we have expanded. We don't just have the downtown businesses. We have businesses throughout the whole town that come and set up, and which is great because we have so many kids, and businesses are constantly running out of candy because there's just so much. We have expanded in that area as well because we used to only have 20 to 30, and now we've gotten it up to about 50. And so I'm hoping each year we can just start adding more and more.
Snow has been happy to be involved in the past 6 years and looks forward to another gathering of family fun for Halloween. Learn more about the Candy Run at lakeshelbyville.com/events/Halloween. And for news anytime, visit us at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com, where you can get more on stories like these and others, or you can hear it every hour on WTIM. WTIM is your only local news radio.
This is Staff Meteorologist Paul Trombley with your regional radio forecast. Lows level off around 37 tonight under partly cloudy skies. Winds out of the northeast, 5 to 10 miles per hour. Ample sunshine expected tomorrow. High temperatures reach up to 64. Clear skies tomorrow night. Lows dip down to about 40. Get weather anytime by calling 824-6101 or online at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com. Currently,
They're back. School is back in session. When the kids come home, give them the protein-packed flavors of Prairie Farms Grab-and-Go Milks. They all provide the protein and nutrition your body needs. Grab-and-Go Milks, just another way you can help your kids' nutrition and health. From the farm families of Prairie Farms Dairy to your family. Grab them in your grocery or convenience store dairy case.
The Big 870 WTIM Assumption Taylorville, 96.1 W241 CF Taylorville, 107.5 W298 CD Shelbyville, 107.9 W300 EH Payne and Nokomis.
Welcome back to the WTIM Prairie Farms Dairy Pigskin Playoff Preview Show. Leroy Kleimola here alongside Greyson Baumann here as we are getting to the Baumann. Sorry. I never say Grayson's last name, and because of that, I always mess it up. But Greyson Baumann, glad to have you with us, Greyson. And we are getting ready to call here Taylorville's head coach as we are getting to the magic hour. The magic hour, yes, the time that we will actually find out who these teams are playing. But let's go ahead and get Coach Jeb Odom on the phone here.
By the way, you have to imagine how many times in my life Baumann has been said wrong. Could be Bowman. I've heard Bowerman. I've heard all types of things. So looks like I'm back with you now. That's good to hear.
Hello. Hey, Coach, it's Leroy from WTIM. How are you?
Good. How are you? I can barely hear you.
Oh, hang on. Let me fix this. There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Sorry about that. We're trying to. If multiple microphones run, my system just overloads. Good to have you on the show, Coach. You doing all right tonight?
I am doing very fine. It's
Good,
been a
good.
long, topsy-turvy season, but I'm doing fine.
It really has. You guys started off 1-4. There was a lot of talk about, a slow start. But when you broke down the numbers, at least when I broke down the numbers, all of those losses, other than the Muhammad game, were all within one score. You had to have felt, Coach, that you were right there.
Well, I think when I was on IHSA one day and I looked at our record 1-4, but we had outscored our opponents by 2 points. It was like 120 to 118. with a 1-4 record. So I don't know if there were too many 1-4 teams that could boast that, but we were one of them, and luckily we were able to make some plays, turn around, and here we are getting ready for the playoffs.
I think a lot of this came down to this big game in Effingham. I said last week that I had surgery, so I was stuck in my chair watching it, but that was one of the best football games I've ever seen in my life. From the sidelines, would you share that opinion?
Oh, it was a bit of a blur towards the end, to be honest with you. There were so many plays that were made by so many different guys. Effingham just kept feeding number 7, and our defense just kept whacking him. And we were able to make plays on both sides of the ball. Cash had a big pick 6, and we had a big, some nice kickoff returns, and of course, the overtime plays, and just it was a series of emotions and experiences that I don't know if I can handle anymore. And to be honest with you, I'm getting too old for that kind of stuff. But it sure was a joy for my son and for his teammates and for the community as well.
Did you see that as a turning point for your season?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, like you said, we're 1-4, and we've got a 4-1 squad coming into our place on our senior night, and to play the way we did and play with as much spirit and fight as we did, and to win the way we did. I think that was kind of a kickstart for us. And we knew our season, we had some games ahead of us that were winnable for us, Mattoon and Charleston, and we were hoping to get a week 9 game. It didn't work out for us, but we knew if we can get by Effingham and put us in a position to win out, then we'll see what happens. But for sure, that was a turning point for us.
Taking a look at the playoffs, have you gotten any inkling of who you guys might be facing? Do you have any idea yet?
Oh, every coach in the high school has a pretty good idea of who they're going to play. If it's not official yet, but you go on Twitter and Steve Susi and in UIC and all the experts, they've been working on it for weeks, and every coach does it their own way and so on and so forth. So
cool.
We got a couple teams narrowed down, and we'll get the final verdict, and we'll make some phone calls, and we'll get everything set up for next weekend.
Sounds good. What can you say, Coach, about your seniors and what they were able to do for you guys this year?
Oh man, don't make me get emotional here. I've had some guys they were in kindergarten, so we started these guys when they were sophomores for this reason, for this run, for this moment to make some noise in the playoffs, and we took our lumps early. When they were sophomores. In fact, I was just watching the St. Ed's game from 2 years ago, and we won that game on a last second play, and just the learning moments we had from that game, and every other game since then. It's been a very emotional journey for sure. I tend to wear my emotions on my sleeve, and I know a lot of those kids do as well, and we want to keep it going as long as we possibly can.
Yeah, this is the first team that I've seen from when they were freshmen all the way through. So pretty cool thing as well. And I've avoided this question for the last 4 years, but I'm going to ask it the last night. Coaching Barron, what was that like for you for the last couple of years?
I think we did a good job of separating work from play in terms of, when we leave the field, we kind of leave everything out there. But we've definitely had our moments. I don't think there's a moment when things were going well that we didn't talk, or when things were going bad, you didn't hear me talking to him in a different voice. But I've enjoyed every second of it. Like I said, I'm going to get, not only him, but all of his friends. And, a lot of those guys have spent, time in the basement, sleeping over with my son. And those guys are now driving and all hanging out together. And, to see all of those guys together and be super close and lots of smiles, and even to see them go through some of the trials and tribulations of growing up and things like that. So, enjoyed every second of it. I'm going to miss it when it's gone, not just for Barron, but for all the kids as well.
And finally, Coach, what message do you have for the Taylorville listeners that may be listening here tonight?
Thanks for hanging in there with us. And like you said, 1-4 to making the playoffs. It's been a very roller coaster of emotions. We had a great off season, and to start the way we did, it was surely a shock to our system. But the kids never stopped battling. I think we had a couple of senior quotes in the paper the last couple of weeks about never giving up, always believing in the process, and just kind of trusting each other and all the experiences that we put them through and all that kind of stuff. And they've come through, they've battled, and the community has been right there with us. Charleston last week stands for packed of parents and players and cheerleaders and dancers, and it was awesome to watch. So I want to thank them for everything they give us on a daily basis. Yeah,
it really seemed like we traveled well this year. It was very cool to see. All right, Coach. Well, thanks.
All right.
Thanks so much for taking a few minutes to talk to us, and we'll see you in the playoffs.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Coach Jim Odom taking a few minutes to talk to us today here about some of the great stuff that they have going on. Taylorville, again, starting the season 1-4 before coming back strong, winning their last 4 straight. They'll head into the playoffs on a 5-4 record, and it's so awesome to be able to see all of that come to fruition. And Coach Jim Odom saying it best. Look, that Effingham game really was the turning point of the whole season, Grayson.
Well, it's got to be. You got to find something. If you're 1-4, not a whole lot of choice but to go up from there. That's pretty much rock bottom. And I'm just glad to hear that his team was able to do so. And it's a unique dynamic between a head coach and starting quarterback, one that, is probably not easy to navigate between public eye and also private eye, really. So, for those two to be able to, in their senior year, be able to do this is probably a pretty special thing for coach.
Class 1A is out. We'll get you those results right now. Leroy getting that number 1 spot as we expected, 9-0. They will take on Aurora Christian in round 1. And it's over on, if you go to the...
they've got it under lock and key. It is almost pathetic.
I've got it. I've got it up, though. I do this. I'm reading it right now.
And I'm looking for it.
Kewanee taking on Rockford. The winner of that will take on Leroy. Kewanee, I love these little co-ops, man. Kewanee, Weathersfield, Anawan, Weathersfield co-op. We'll take on Rockford Lutheran. That game in Kewanee. Rushville taking on Ottawa. I have a friend who's up in Ottawa. Used to work here, Bill Bernardoni. If you remember Bill, Bill's up in Ottawa right now. They had a really good football team this year, make the playoffs. I'm going to mess up the pronunciation, but Tuan from Stark County taking on Galena. Galena, Winslow taking on Clifton, and Princeville taking on Stockton. Gibson City versus Catlin. Sterling taking on Chicago Hope Academy, Christian Hope Academy, maybe. Belleville taking on Dupo. Belleville again getting the number 1 spot that we figured was going to happen. Grayson, that Belleville team, very good. Althoff Catholic 9-0. Winchester taking on Carrollton. Casey versus Jacksonville. Route Co-op. Greenfield versus Mount Sterling. Hardin taking on Moequa. Number 2 Hardin Calhoun 8-1. We'll take on Central A&M. That game in Hardin, dates to be determined. But Moequa coming in, Central A&M coming in on a 15 seed. 15 seed, they'll take on the number 2. Your thoughts, Grayson? I know you talked to Coach Weekly a little bit. What are your thoughts on that?
It kind of has to be expected. That's kind of where we've been slotted now for a couple of weeks. And even prior to that, from NUIC football, as mentioned by Coach Odom there, they've kind of seen us in that spot for a little while now, and so it kind of has to be expected, but just nice to know that it's official and you're in, and there's no more worry. You're that 15 seed, you know what the job is, and now it's time to take care of it.
Also, matchup Cesar taking on Bridgeport. Camp Point will take on Nokomis. Nokomis getting a 14 seed, and Toledo will take on Tuscola for the 6 and 11 to wrap up the class. So that is how that round will go. And again, those results we will wait to see tomorrow, or Monday is when those dates will be announced as far as dates to be determined. Pretty sure it's going to be a Saturday, but again, that's still not officially official yet. But some big stuff that we're watching here for our local area schools is Central A&M taking on Calhoun and Nokomis taking on Camp Point. That is the results that we have here for our round 1 for our 1A class. Any surprises from that you heard or that you saw, Grayson?
Sure. Well, I wish I could see it. Yeah, you almost have to go to Twitter to find anything.
All right, so we're gonna show Grayson where we need to go for this. If you go to IHSA football.
Good luck. That's fine. Let's navigate.
Were you not able to get in? Maybe there's too many people on the
the
page.
I have no idea. What I found on Twitter, that's what we're going to go to now because Grayson can't get in here. So you mentioned Leroy. No surprise, obviously, being the number 1 seed there. Well-deserved. That team that's the real deal. That would be, if I were to expect anybody to come out of this one on top, I know they're number 1, but
Leroy and Belleville both getting number 1 seeds in the Class 1A.
Leroy's going to look really, really good. And Yeah, Belleville. We heard that there are some D1 commits on that squad. Anytime you start talking D1 commits and those that are headed to big time programs like Oregon and Auburn, as mentioned,
you're doing something right.
Something's going right for you. You're getting the looks of college scouts even, and so that's another team to look out for. And kind of will start to shape up and see. But I think there are going to be some teams within there that have a good shot, but I think it's very top heavy, and I think that's where the bracket. I think that's where it's going to go in terms of the championship. We'll see, but at least one of those number ones, I would have to imagine, is going to make it to that championship game.
So we head over to Class 2A while Grayson still tries to find all of this information. Farmington sitting at number 1. They'll take on Mackinac Deer Creek. Taylor Ridge will take on Lanark. Both teams sitting at 7-2. That'll actually be a really good game, Grayson. Taylor Ridge versus Lanark. Elmwood versus Vivian. Moments versus Dwight. This is always the fun day where Leroy tries to pronounce all of these areas that I can't pronounce. Bismarck versus Erie. Seneca taking on El Paso out of Gridley High. Tri-Valley will take on Central Catholic out of Bloomington. Chicago Christian out of Palos Heights will take on Illini West from Carthage. Johnston City gets the other number 1 seed. They'll take on Red Bud. Warrensburg Latham taking on White County. Both teams 7-2. And in a big matchup, Pana sitting at 8-1 in the number 4 slot will take on 6-3 Shelbyville. That game will be in Pana. So Pana versus Shelbyville in Pana. Again, dates to be determined, but those are the other. That is a big matchup right there. 8-1 Pana versus 6-3 Shelbyville in the matchup that's very close to home for our listeners, as that is going to be a big matchup right there. Vandalia will take on Niantic. Vandalia 8-1, Niantic 6-3. Moreau. Forsyth will take on St. Teresa 6-1 versus 5-4. Chester taking on Westville. Quincy versus Flora. And Arthur will take on North Mac out of Verdon. So that is the wrap-ups for Class 2A. In order to save Grayson and to get him back on the same track, we're going to take another quick break. When we come back, we will have all of the 3A and 4A for you. You're listening to WTIM's Prairie Farms Dairy Pigskin Playoff Preview Show.
The fall season is a great time to enjoy farmer-owned Prairie Farms dairy products. Throw some baked potatoes on the grill and bring out the taste with Prairie Farms sour cream. Cut up your favorite vegetables and dip them in Prairie Farms French onion or ranch dip and make those veggie flavors come out even more. And Prairie Farms small curd, large curd, low fat, and fat-free cottage cheese provides great nutrition as a side dish or salad. Enjoy fall with these farmer-owned Prairie Farms dairy products in your grocer or C-store dairy case.
Did you know we are bringing licensed daycare to Assumption? This is Shala Snagel, Executive Director of Kimmer Village. The future Assumption Community Child Care Center is looking for teachers and aides for our upcoming daycare. We are offering great salary and benefits. Visit our website, kimmervillage.org, and click on Join Our Team. Parents, watch our Facebook page for news on our opening. We are going to offer playtime and learning and great care.
Hey there, it's Raimi Miller, personal and business coach, and also owner of Run Deep Coaching, and a Taylorville native now living in the Northern Illinois area. I have the pleasure of helping people strengthen the relationship with themselves and others virtually, no matter where they are. Seeing what's possible for people is the highlight of my job. For example, I support people through job transitions, relationship changes, and developing new habits. Recently, I hosted a workshop and people walked away with hope, courage, feeling worthy and seen. I would love to connect with you. Feel free to reach out for a virtual complimentary 60-minute conversation to see if it's a good fit to work together one-on-one, or we can just simply discuss any upcoming events. My website is www.rundeepcoaching.com. That's www.rundeepcoaching.com. I'm sending you so much support.
Perry Stanfa here, owner of Central Illinois Truck Service in Greenville. If you're a trucker, you know you gotta keep your rig on the road. Let our certified techs using the latest software keep you on the road. Click on our icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com and let us work for you.
SIU Family Medicine wants the best health for you and your family. Be a champion. Protect your loved ones. The SIU Center for Family Medicine of Taylorville is accepting new patients. Click their icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com to schedule your appointment.
This is Staff Meteorologist Paul Trombley with your regional radio forecast. Lows level off around 37 tonight under partly cloudy skies. Winds out of the northeast, 5 to 10 miles per hour. Ample sunshine expected tomorrow. High temperatures reach up to 64. Clear skies tomorrow night. Lows dip down to about 40. Get weather anytime by calling 824-6101 or online at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com. Currently 50.
Welcome back to WTIM, your information station, the Prairie Farms Dairy Pigskin Playoff Preview Show. And we are flying by the seat of our pants tonight. I meant to tell you, we're having a good time tonight. We got our 1A, 2A out of the way. If you're just joining us, Calhoun will take on Central A&M. Calhoun 8-1, Central A&M 5-4. Camp Point 8-1, taking on Nokomis. And then Pena will take on Shelbyville. That'll be a really good game, I think, in that one. But let's take a look at our 3A matchups here and see if those are in yet. They are. So here we go with 3A matchups. Number 1, Byron, 9-0, taking on Fairbury. Chicago will take on Lombard. Montini. I'm going to mess up. I'm telling you, I'm going to mess up all these names here. Princeton versus Oregon. Marshall taking on King on Chicago. Wilmington versus Stillman Valley. All of these teams 9-0, man. Eureka taking on Payatone. Pecatonica taking on Genoa. Monmouth taking on Paxton. St. Joseph versus West Frankfort. Roxana versus Tolano. Nashville. They've had a good football team for a while. Taking on Stanford. What do you want from me? I don't do this often. How bad did I butcher that?
Tolono.
Thank you.
There you go.
Tolono. Tolonio.
Oh, man, some of these I have no idea. I'm right there with you.
Greenville taking on Fairfield. Sullivan getting that number 2 seed against Mount Carmel. Sullivan 9-0. They will take on Mount Carmel in Sullivan. And that'll be a good game right there as they look to get their playoff season started in a big way. They will have a big win They'll have a big game against Mount Carmel. It's not decided yet, Leroy. They'll play Mount Carmel, number 15 seed. New Berlin taking on Benton. Williamsville versus Carlinville. Williamsville 8-1. They've had a great football season as well. And Monticello will take on DuQuoin as well. So that wraps up our 3A classes here. And at Sullivan, again, Sullivan will take on Mount Carmel. Sullivan finishing the season 9-0. They sit in that number 2 seed with the number 1 seed being St. Joseph's, Ogden, St. Joseph. So, but there's a bunch of really good teams in this 3A, Grayson. All of these teams have 1 loss or no losses. Williamsville, Sullivan, Greenville, Nashville, St. Joseph, Monmouth, Eureka, Dupac Co-op, Wilmington, Marshall, Chicago, Princeton, and Byron. All of those teams either have 1 loss or no losses. So a lot of heavy hitters in this 3A class, Grayson.
Yeah, through the first 5 seeds, you have only 1 loss on those resumes. It's not until you get to the 6th seed with Monticello finally at 7-2 do you get to one of those 2-loss teams. So that's looking loaded right there. And so obviously Sullivan had to fall somewhere in that regard. There are a lot of undefeated teams. They are not the only ones. But they get that 2nd seed. And the way I look at that, then you either play a 7 or a 10. To me, that, you're really not in a bad spot. And you're not really too upset about it. And yes, I know as a 1 seed, it might look a little bit better. You'll get to play either an 8 or a 9. But as a 2 seed, I think you're still sitting pretty. I like that bottom half of the bracket as well a little more. And I think that shapes up just a little bit better for Sullivan. I think actually where they sit, they might be a little happier with where they sit right now with that spot. So I like that for them, especially being in that second half of the bracket.
Taking a look at 4A football bracket, Sullivan, Chicago taking on Geneseo, Diet versus DePaul. That second round there. West Chicago versus Sandwich. Richmond versus Burbank. Chicago South Shore taking on a lot of Chicago teams. Rockford, Boylan Catholic. Coal City versus Johnsburg. Dixon High School taking on Marengo. Chicago Ag Science taking on Clement. Breeze Central taking on Harrisburg. Macomb versus Murfreesboro. Rochester will take on Peoria. That's another area school that we kind of touch on sometimes. They've had a lot of controversy over there with some hazing issues. So Rochester will take on Notre Dame. Mount Zion taking on Carterville. Mount Zion finishing 6-3. Carterville 7-2. Mount Zion getting that 12 seed. Only Richland County at 9-0. Number 2 taking on Kewanee. Mantino taking on Normal University. Waterloo will take on Taylorville. I went through that whole bracket and I freaked out because I didn't see their name on there. I thought they missed the playoffs, but they do get in as a number 14 seed. They will take on Waterloo in Waterloo. Date to be determined. But that is your opponent, Taylorville. There was some talk on the webs that we might be facing Olney, but Taylorville will take on Waterloo. Waterloo finishing 8-1. We'll take a look at some of these matchups here after we finish this up here. And wrapping out the 3A or 4A class, Cahokia will take on Columbia. So if Taylorville is able to somehow pick up a win against Waterloo, they will take on the winner of the Cahokia Columbia game that will follow. Your thoughts on that class?
It's not as good, just by the looks overall records. But really, you're also up in A. So now you're up in terms of what should be your quality opponents. I think for Taylorville, by the look of things, they probably would have liked to have seen Olney another time. That's a familiar foe as far as I can recall for Taylorville. And so instead they have to play Waterloo. Obviously, they have not played Waterloo this year. And so maybe they would have liked to have gone against a team that's a little more familiar to them heading into the playoffs, but that won't be the case.
And we'll talk a little bit about Waterloo. Waterloo finished last year 4-5. They didn't make it last year. They finished 8-1 this season. They picked up 3 wins in a row starting the season versus Mount Vernon, 35-28, 31-14 over Columbia, and 27-26 over Centralia. Triad, they lost to Triad 31-7. And then won the rest of the way out with wins over Highland, Jerseyville, Civic Memorial, Mascoutah, and Chesterville. Taylorville, obviously familiar with Civic Memorial, and that game against Columbia, Taylorville beat Columbia 35-27. So they do have one mutual opponent. Taylorville did beat Columbia 35-27. And Waterloo defeated Columbia 31-14. So might be, at least on paper, might be a little bit closer than what the records show, which is always a plus. But Taylorville obviously using a huge momentum boost to get in there. Waterloo has won 5 straight. Taylorville has won 4 straight. Be a good matchup between those two schools.
Yeah, and they'll probably enjoy going in hot. However, if you're Taylorville, look at it one of 2 ways, or you can look at it one of 2 ways. You didn't play this week, and yeah, maybe you get a little healthier, but you also kind of fall out of that rhythm that you get over the course of the season. And so for Taylorville, now you got to pick it back up in the playoffs and against a team that you're unfamiliar with, maybe a team that on paper you like your chances with, but you got to pick it up. And that comes from that free win that was garnered last night with that forfeiture. But so we'll see. But Taylorville's going to have to pick it up, and they're going to have to do so coming off of what is a odd bye week to end the year.
So Taylorville will take on Waterloo. That date and time will be determined on Monday. Generally, these games are played on Saturday, but we will get to those updates as we do. That the updates will come on Monday. We're going to wrap things up here with our 5A class, provided that it is not out yet. So we can take a few moments, and since it is we got a little bit of time. I can't take a break. I thought I could. I cannot. So we have to just hang here for a few more minutes to talk a little bit more football, but some great matchups here. We're going to go. Let's run through one more time here for our listeners because we do have a little bit of time here to fill in. But Central A&M 5-4 taking on Calhoun 8-1. Again, Central A&M taking on Calhoun. Nokomis taking on Camp Point Central. Shelbyville versus Pana. Number 13, Shelbyville taking on number 4, Pana. Number 2, Sullivan will take on number 15, Mount Carmel. Rochester will take on Peoria Notre Dame. And then Waterloo will take on Taylorville. Waterloo 8-1, Taylorville 5-4. That's everyone, right? Did we get?
That is, other than, did we get to South Fork, Morrisonville? Did we hear about those?
I did not.
Maybe they did not get in. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
However,
not read their name.
I would love to go back to
a
matchup. I think this might be the most neat matchup. Think about it. It's Pana Shelbyville.
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And Coach Duckett talked about that with us off the air for just a second and thought Pana was an opportunity. We would have loved to have asked them, hey, if Pana is the foe, is the opponent that you got to go against, what do you see for that game? But, man, that one I think might be the most interesting out of all this slate that I'm seeing here, at least for us here in Central Illinois. I mean, Pana getting to play Shelbyville, that one, I like the look of that one a lot.
All right, so we have a lot of great matchups that are coming here, and man, it is exciting to be able to take a look at some of these games, and again, taking a look at how this all breaks out as we kind of wait for this 5A bracket to come out here. But lots of great stuff. There's 5A. I can stop rambling here. Here we go. Sycamore getting the number 1 seed. They take on Noble Bulls out of Chicago. Prosser taking on Westinghouse College Prep. St. Francis taking on Sterling High School. Crystal Lake, Prairie Ridge taking on Good out of Chicago. Rochelle taking on Marmion Academy out of Aurora. Bennett Academy taking on Chicago Perspectives Leadership. LaGrange Park Nazareth Academy taking on Peyton out of Chicago. Woodstock taking on Freeport. Morgan Park out of Chicago taking on Tinley Park. Centralia 6-3. They take on Metamora. That'll be a good game right there. Centralia, obviously well known for their basketball. Their football team is 6-3 on the season. Triad, another big season for Triad. They finished 7-2. They will take on Morris in round 1. Highland 6-3 taking on Marion 6-3. Peoria will take on Country Club Hills out of Hillcrest. Corliss out of Chicago will take on Calumet City. And then another big matchup. Mahomet Seymour will take on Sacred Heart Griffin out of Springfield. So that is another big Mahomet coming into that game 7-2, SHG 5-4. And that game will be in Mahomet. That's the other close area Apollo Conference matchup that we're kind of keeping an eye on. And then Joliet Catholic Academy will take on Jacksonville, who's both those teams 6-3 as well. So some interesting matchups in 5A. Yes, there are 3 more brackets. We don't have any schools in 6A, 7A, or 8A. So these are the only focuses that these are the only teams that we're going to focus on. But we did want to see how Mahomet was going to shake out in that 5A bracket as we start getting into some relatively big schools. I know there's a lot of Chicago area schools that were in there, but some area schools as well, including Sacred Heart Griffin, Highland, Jacksonville, Centralia, and Jacksonville, Sacred Heart Griffin, Peoria, Marion, Highland, and Triad, and then Centralia.
Well, yeah, and we don't know a whole lot about those teams considering they're just kind of out of our wheelhouse. But good for Mahomet, another area team, put on a good season, 7-2, and just best of luck to them. But that's about all we can say for them. So if we'd like, hey, I'm fine to go back down to 1A, and we can talk a little bit about that. Whatever you want to do, man. You're steering the ship, Leroy. Remember,
we are rocking it tonight. Interesting matchups in that 1A class. If we do go back to that 1A class, there's some really, really top heavy power hitters, and at some point, Grayson, you got to think that these top heavy hitters are going to run into each other.
I think they will, and I think some of the teams that maybe didn't get a one line, and really that might have deserved a look at that spot. Really, you could look at Gibson City, Melvin Sibley, even as a team that deserved maybe a 1 at 8-1. They're right there. I mean, you have a lot of teams that are looking really good in this conference. Leroy right up there at that 9-0 mark. So what I'm looking at is last year. What did we do last year? Well, last year there are a lot of these teams that are very familiar with the playoffs, and Central A&M hasn't been there since 2022. Some of that is going to aid towards these other teams where they've got the playoff experience. They've been in the playoffs year in and year out. I'm seeing teams here that have made appearances 23 years in a row, and so that kind of shows you the caliber of some of these programs that are going to be going up against.
It almost becomes playoffs is normal. It's what we do once we get there.
Right. And what's so funny about that is oftentimes we just don't even think twice about it. If your team's a perennial playoff team, you don't think twice about it. If you're the Patriots for years, the playoffs are a certainty. So for some of these teams, that is the way it is. They know how to go into that, and they do it year in and year out. And so for Central A&M, getting back on that course, getting back to those consecutive playoffs like they're used to doing, I'm excited to see it. But there are multiple teams with 23 consecutive playoff appearances. Some teams up in the 16, 14 mark. And Camp Point last year went 14-0, I believe. They were your champions last year, if I'm not mistaken. And so there's some familiar faces and a lot of teams familiar with the playoffs. Central A&M's going to have a long road ahead of them at that 1A level.
We talk about that Class 1A and how the top heavy hitters are there, but we said it once and we'll say it again. When you get to 2A, it is heavy hitters. A lot of teams that are either 9-0 or 8-1 or even 7-2. And these are the matchups that we're going to really, really watch, because there are going to be some very, very good teams that are going to be sitting on the sidelines sooner rather than later, just because of how strong the top of the Class 2A is.
Yeah, it's pretty loaded. And, obviously you can say that for most of the conferences, but certain ones stand out. And I think 2A certainly stands out. It does feel just as top heavy as any other.
I mean, Pena is a 4 seed at 8-1.
At 8-1, and
a 4 seed,
and we're seeing that, as we're going through. But yeah, you think about Pena and you think about that Pena Shelbyville matchup. I can't wait for that one and to see what the result of that one is. But yeah, you're right, Leroy. I mean, just go down the list. A lot of 9-0s, a lot of 8-1s. Again, a lot of teams with consecutive playoff runs, not near so much here. Moreau Forsyth getting in for the 20th consecutive year. Bismarck with their 15th consecutive. But a lot of these teams are just now getting their streak started. A lot of these teams missed the playoffs last year is what I'm seeing here, Leroy. So a lot of teams are looking to make that a perennial playoff program. And it starts this year. But
saying, look, we belong here. And a lot of the conferences being shuffled, a lot of the jumbles taking place. And while the conferences may be new, the classes stay the same. So while you may have some new opponents that you're facing in your conference, when you get to the classes, some familiar foes might be just waiting for you there, as some of these teams know each other very, very well and might be just ready for each other with some matchups that are more familiar, which is also throwing a wrinkle into this as well, especially for some of the smaller classes where we did see some conference shakeup as far as that goes. And you never know if that might suit you a little bit better there as well, because guess what? We're playing so-and-so. We've seen them. They used to be in our conference. We're ready for them. So some interesting stuff going on there in 2A.
Yeah, it can certainly help in terms of, all right, we're familiar with what formation they run on defense. Are they a 4-3 base? Or are they a 3-4 base? What are they? What kind of team are they? Do they love to blitz? Do they love to drop people back in coverage? You get an idea for that. Are they run heavy? Do they maybe pass a little more than other opponents might? And so you are right. I think some of that familiarity will aid these teams. But as mentioned, I'm seeing a lot of teams that maybe this is the second year in a row they've made the playoffs, but this conference feels just as up for grabs, even though it's real top heavy, just like some of these other conferences. This one feels just as much up for grabs as any other that I'm seeing, just based off of some of these previous playoff records and some of the records these teams brought in last year. A lot of turnarounds that I'm seeing on the 2A level.
All right, we got to take another quick break. When we come back, we will deep dive into Class 3A and Class 4A as we wrap up things here for the WTIM Prairie Farms Dairy Pigskin Playoff Preview Show. We'll be right back in just a moment on WTIM, your information station.
That feeling is in the air. It's getting cooler. The leaves are falling. It's fall. And that means bonfires, get-togethers, and farmer-owned Prairie Farms dairy products. Prairie Farms cottage cheese is a great salad or side dish. Dip your favorite vegetable into Prairie Farms' lineup of dips, including French onion and ranch, to make the taste pop. And Prairie Farms sour cream goes great on that baked potato you just took off the grill. Enjoy the fall season with these Prairie Farms dairy products in your grocery or convenience store dairy case.
That sound reminds us winter is coming. As a mature adult, you don't want to deal with ice, snow, cold, slipping, and sliding. Get on the waiting list at Taylorville Estates Assisted Living. It's socialization with friends, riding the bus to local activities, have your own apartment, and 3 home-cooked meals every day. Get on their waiting list now. Enjoy the assisted living lifestyle and beat old man winter. Stop by or call Administrator Tony Clark at 824-2222, 824-2222. Taylorville Estates Assisted Living, encouraging independence, enriching lives. Summer is officially over, but what a season it was. From unforgettable pool parties to sunny days with friends, your backyard was the ultimate gathering spot. At Southern Ledge Pools and Patios in Taylorville, we're here to help you close your pool with ease. Call us now to schedule your pool closing and get ready for the cozy fall days ahead. And while you're at it, don't miss out on our fantastic fall special. Enjoy 10% off syrups and spices, perfect for autumn recipes. Southern Ledge Pools and Patios, 306 East Main Cross in Taylorville.
Hello, Panther fans. This is the voice of the Eastern Illinois University Panthers, Mike Brad, inviting all of our fans in Taylorville, Shelbyville, Effingham, and Eastern Illinois to listen for Panther football on your information station, WTIM, on its many platforms on AM, FM, and online. Hear the Panthers as they compete in the Ohio Valley Conference. Follow the Panthers this season on your information station, WTIM, on AM, FM, and online.
This is Megan Lopez with Nesty's Burger Joint on the south side of the Taylorville Square. To see our menu, click on our icon on TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
This is staff meteorologist Paul Trombley with your regional radio forecast.
Executive Director at
Lows
Kimmer
level
Village
off around
in
37
Assumption.
tonight
To learn
under
more
partly
about
cloudy
our
skies.
services,
Winds out of the
click on our
northeast,
icon
5 to 10
at
miles.
TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
This is staff meteorologist Paul Trombley with your regional radio forecast. Lows level off around 37 tonight under partly cloudy skies. Winds out of the northeast, 5 to 10 miles per hour. Ample sunshine expected tomorrow. High temperatures reach up to 64. Clear skies tomorrow night. Lows dip down to about 40. Get weather anytime by calling 824-6101 or online at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com. Currently 50.
Welcome back to WTIM, your information station. Leroy Kleimola here alongside Greyson Baumann. Glad to be with you here as we try to get things figured out here, Mike. WTIM. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, we were there. It just didn't work out the way I wanted it to. It started it up, and I didn't tell it to start. It just magically did it on its own. Awesome. Hi, Greyson.
Hey,
how you doing?
Better than you.
That's what I get for running the ship or running the show. All right. I said ship. Just came out slow.
All right. Remember that commercial years ago? I shipped my pants.
Yes. What was that? It was Kmart. Wasn't that Kmart?
So, yeah.
All right, let's go to 3A. Take a look at some of the 3A matchups. Again, the deep dive here into these brackets here for 3A. As we are wrapping things up here this evening, we took a deep dive at 1A and 2A. 3A, Byron versus Fairbury. I'm not concerned about the upper part. All the upper part is Chicago. We'll go to the lower part. St. Joseph versus West Frankfort. Roxana versus Tolono. I just thought I got it. I didn't get it. Nashville taking on Olympia. Stanford. Greenville versus Fairfield. Sullivan, 9-0. Sullivan takes on Mount Carmel, 5-4. That game will be in Sullivan. I know those guys are super excited. They've had a great season. When you can finish the season 9-0, you are ready for the playoffs.
Oh, and Sullivan, I'm telling you, that's my dark horse look for that bracket right there.
Amazing. You finish 9-0, you get number 2 seed, but there's a lot of good teams up in that 4 or in that 3A. New Berlin Co-op taking on Benton. Williamsville taking on Carlinville. Williamsville, another good team. And then Monticello taking on DeCoin as well. So some really good matchups here in 3A. Anything grab your attention in this bracket? Crazy.
I'd say the only additional team you might look at there is that Paxton Panthers at 6-3. It's a good squad, really. And Paxton, I believe they took a loss last night, but The Panthers, that's a good team there. I think they've got a chance to get into the second round. I think that side of the bracket might shape up a little bit for them as well. And when you look at Monticello at 7-2, they finished 7th or top 10 in terms of their ranking in the conference. And again, you just look and you see these teams and you think, oh, that's a decent team. That's another good team. And Byron last year, 14-0. At the end of the day, that's probably where you're looking at. If you were able to do it last year, you've got a good chance at doing it again this year. And
well, and again, like I said, with 2A, there's going to be a lot of good teams that are going to be on the sidelines sooner rather than later, just because of how top heavy some of these conferences are, and just the way that the brackets have shaped up. But there's definitely going to be, I think, some maybe not necessarily upsets, but when you've got a team that's 8-1 playing another team that's 8-1, somebody's going to go home and feel that they deserve to go a little bit further.
Well, and you've got to look at a team like Lombard. So they've got 6 championships under their belt, but now they're getting back to playoff appearances. They had a bit of a down stretch, and now that they're getting back to being themselves. So you got to look at a team like Lombard as well that knows the playoffs. You can't underestimate that. And then you look at Wilmington. This is their 29th consecutive playoff experience here. And that's, again, it's just when you're a team that it comes to expect it, sometimes you just go into those games with a different mentality. It's a little less, you're a little less worried about it because, well, heck, the juniors, the seniors, the guys that were in front of me, they all did it. I can do it too. So some of that previous playoff experience, I think, is really going to be what you want to look at in these brackets. But again, with 3A here, man, Leroy, honestly, this one's going to be another fun bracket to continue watching.
There's a lot of good stuff. As I said, there'll be a lot of good football. A lot of good football coming this next weekend.
Eureka as well. I mean, Eureka just beat 27-0 right there, and so you look at that, and you just think, man, there's a lot of talented squads here, and this is going to be a long road. But again, you could say the same for all these brackets. It's going to be a long road, and Coach Weekly mentioned it. You get all that extra football, you get all that extra experience. And I'm excited to see how that really ends up playing out in these playoffs.
So we move on back to to 4A, and again, we're going to focus. The upper part is mostly Chicago and northern schools. We're going to focus on the southern bracket for 4A. Number 1, Breeze Central will take on Harrisburg, 9-0 versus 5-4 Harrisburg. Macomb taking on Murfreesboro. Both teams 7-2, what will be a good matchup there. Rochester overcoming some internal issues, and we'll take on Notre Dame Peoria. Carterville will take on Mount Zion. Carterville 7-2, Mount Zion 6-3. Mount Zion having a down year for Mount Zion. I'm going to say that. Mount Zion having a down year for Mount Zion. They finished the season 6-3. I'm sure if I talk to most people from Mount Zion, they probably share the same feelings I have. They dealt with some injuries throughout the season, but they are looking to secure themselves a couple of wins here in the playoffs. Olney, Richland County, team that maybe we thought Taylorville might be facing. They will take on Kewanee. Richland County 9-0. Kewanee 5-4. Mantino 7-2, taking on University out of Normal. Both teams 7-2. Another big matchup right there. And then Waterloo Bulldogs 8-1, taking on the Taylorville Tornadoes 8-1 versus 5-4. And again, the only common opponent that both these schools have is Waterloo and Taylorville both played Columbia. Both teams beating Columbia by similar scores. So we'll take a look at that here. And wrapping up the class, Cahokia takes on Columbia, and Taylorville familiar with Columbia as well, as if they are able to pull that one off. The two schools know each other very, very well. That game being played earlier in the season. As I have to hold on a second, I was good and then I wasn't good. Columbia 6-3. They beat Taylorville 35-27 after a last-second drop in the end zone for Taylorville that would potentially have tied up the game. But 4A class wrapping things up with Cahokia and Columbia. other than the Taylorville Waterloo game, what games are you looking forward to in 4A, Grayson?
Pretty much anything Rochester, and I know you mentioned some of the internal struggles that I don't know if I was fully aware of, but when it comes to Rochester, you have 9 championships to know that you're coming home to. They've never lost in a championship game. Rochester, it doesn't matter if they sneak in, and they rarely sneak in. Rochester always makes noise in the playoffs, so do not write them off. That team, just year in and year out, they're able to get the job done. That's somebody I'm looking at as again, a surprise pick, and really maybe those outside talk or the outside talk surrounding the internal affairs that might just motivate a team that much more. So you never know. It can go one of two ways. It seems Rochester's dealt with it and is dealing with it, and I think they have a chance to really be wheeling and dealing in the playoffs.
Head coach Derek Leonard was suspended for 1 game, but Rochester able to pick up a win regardless in that Sacred Heart Griffin game. They won 41-27, so not having their head coach didn't matter as they were still able to secure a big win at home against SHG. SHG making the playoffs as well, and we'll focus on them here in just a moment. But again, Sacred Heart Griffin getting into the playoffs as they will take on Mahomet Seymour, and will be a big game there. SHG 5-4, Mahomet 7-2. That's the only really big matchup that we're looking at in Class 5A. Although there's some other big games. Triad 7-2. Triad ran through most of their gauntlet as well. They always seem to have a really good football team. And then Jacksonville High School 6-3 as well, as far as area schools that we are talking about.
Yeah, 5A does start to lose us in terms of what we're used to in terms of population for Central Illinois. But Mahomet, again, best of luck to them. They might need it. That's going to be a difficult path for them, but good luck to them and wishing them all the best.
All right, so there is the big stuff that's going on here. We had some good talks with our head coaches here tonight, and we are getting ready for what should be some good playoff football next weekend. Of course, Grayson, myself, Tim Zalabak will have all of the calls here. Dave DeVore will be doing Shelbyville. That'll be taking place next weekend as well. We assume, and I'm going to say that we assume that these games are Saturday. Most playoff games are on Saturdays, but those dates and times have not been posted yet. They won't be posted until Monday as they finalize a lot of these results and get everything all ready to go. But lots of good football coming your way. And then guess what? We turn the corner and it's basketball season. So lots of high school sports coming your way here. Of course, volleyball playoffs going on. We'll be taking a look at that as well here. But lots of good stuff coming up if you are interested in high school sports. All of those great matchups here as well. So unfortunately, we do have about 5 minutes that we have to fill. So we'll try to focus on that here a little bit.
What I'm hoping for.
Go ahead, yeah.
I'll tell you what I'm hoping for, depending on the times and when Central A&M will be playing, I really want to hear that Pana Shelbyville call from Dave. That I'm telling you, that you get 2 teams, almost kind of a sister city feel, obviously pretty far away from each other, but a lot of towns around this area are pretty far away from each other. And that one just feels like just such a storybook type of game, really, where 2 teams so familiar with each other, communities so familiar with each other, get to go ahead and play in the playoffs. Big time picture. I'm trying to paint that there, but excited to hear Dave's call if I'm able to catch it. And like Leroy mentioned, we'll just find out when Monday brings us those times and brings us those days and where they're being played.
And as I said, we talked about it. We've talked about it at great length tonight. But I think the game that I'm most excited for that's not Taylorville or our area is probably that Sullivan game. Look, Sullivan 9-0. If they are able to pick up a win, they'll take on the winner of New Berlin and Benton. If they're able to take a win there, they'll take on either Williamsville, Carlinville, Monticello, or DuQuoin. So Sullivan, not an easy road as far as the playoffs go, but when you have a team that's 9-0, especially a team as good as Sullivan are, look, you don't get to 9-0 from just luck. Yes, there are probably some stuff that maybe falls your way, but for the most part, this is a dangerous football team, and they feel that they can compete with some of the best schools.
Hey, I haven't gotten to get a bird's eye view on them and call some of their games last year. I appreciate you bringing them back up because I think Sullivan's got a really good chance to make a really good run. They have experience, they have talent, and they've got it on the offensive side of the ball, and that translates to the defensive side of the ball. They just have athletes, and that's what you're looking for at some of these levels. It's just athletes. You've got to have them. They've got to be able to play both sides of the ball because you cannot provide enough students in your population. So some of these guys have to operate on both sides of the field, and I think Sullivan does it just about as well as anybody I've seen. They're operating at a high level over the last 2 years. I do think that is another team to really look at. So I appreciate you making mention of them. And so we'll see. I'll have my eyes on that one as well. I'm hoping for Sullivan and all the success there. Redskins, Nokomis and Sullivan, both getting into the playoffs this year. So it feels good for those two schools.
One last thing that I want to bring up about Waterloo, this Waterloo-Taylorville matchup. Waterloo did not win their conference at 8-1. Triad won their conference after Triad was able to pick up a game against Waterloo where they won 31-7. So that was the difference in that conference matchup. So you don't necessarily have to have the best record to win your conference if you are able to pick up a win or secure a win over them, and they were able to. So just an interesting little rub in that dynamic with that matchup.
Yeah, it's unique how things like that shake out kind of, and you see that, and obviously sometimes that might give you that much more of a chip on your shoulder.
Yeah.
Now I didn't get my chance at a conference championship. I didn't win. All right, now I got to make sure I prove to this school, I prove to this conference, and I prove to our fans that we belong here and we're ready to roll. So I think for them, you look at that record and there is nothing to be upset about there, and to lose to what ended up being the conference champion, you're pretty happy about that.
Right, absolutely, and again, look, it's not easy to make the playoffs. It's just not. You have to win. You have to win 6 games to get in. You have to win at least 5 to be considered. And sometimes there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of good teams that play in these conferences. So to be able to secure your spot in the up. The other area of school that we wanted to touch on that we really haven't talked about at all, and I'm going to see if I can find them right here, is our eight-man football, because that's where South Fork plays. South Fork plays in 8-man. We're trying to pick that up right here if I can. Pawnee, another area of school that we haven't talked about. Pawnee finishing 8-0. Again, they are 8-man league. Kincaid finishing 5-3. Kincaid South Fork finishing 5-3. Again, this is 8-player football in the South. Those playoff stuff will be coming later this week. We don't have those results yet, but Pawnee 8-0, Kincaid South Fork 5-3. Again, if you have never seen 8-man football, I strongly encourage you to go check out a game sometime. It's fast, it's quick, it's a different, unique look at the game that we love. But 8-man football is generally it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different.
It is, and really, you're kind of forced to certain coverages. You're forced to certain things. You can play zone, but are you going to get any pass rush?
Yeah, that's the question.
So then that kind of plays into it, and so it is interesting, and it's interesting for those schools then going into the playoffs. So be fun to see kind of how that ends up for them. But and it just, man, these small schools, these communities that bring these small schools together, these are huge things for a school like that. Even if you're on the road, obviously it's even bigger if you're at home, but even if you're on the road, sometimes high school football is the only thing to look forward to on a Friday night. And as somebody who came from a small town himself, I'm telling you, it's just the truth. And so honestly, to be able to get an extra weekend and maybe more, it's big, big, big for a small community.
All right, that's going to do it for us from here. I want to thank you all for hanging out with us. Greyson thank you so much for hanging out with me this evening. It makes listen, it's a whole lot easier to do the show with two people as opposed to one. So Grayson able to help me out tonight, and I really appreciate it. That's going to do it for us from here. On behalf of Greyson Baumann, my name is Leroy Kleimola. That's going to do it for us from here. If you missed any of the results, guess what? We're live. We're on WTIM and we're on YouTube and Facebook. So check it out there if you missed it. Otherwise, that's going to do it for us from here. Have a great rest of your evening. You're listening to WTIM's Prairie Farms Dairy Pigskin Playoff Preview Show. If I don't see you, have a fantastic rest of your evening.
WTIM.
This is Grace.